Marlene and Bill Tara, and thank you very much for taking the time out to come and talk to us about health. So I guess my question for you would be, and for those that are listening, in these times of stress and difficulty, what ways could people manage their stress better, and what could people do to boost their immunity at this time?
Great questions. Would you like to start, husband?
Sure. Well, I think one thing that people have to remember is that we are built to resist viral infection, but listen carefully, because that could be misconstrued. Our immune system is really one of the most important functions of the body, and I think that people lose track of the whole concept of the fact that you can build your immune system. It's actually not an accident. Your immune system is either efficient or not efficient, depending on what's happening in your gut biome. And that's where the immune system is generated from. So this community of millions and millions of microorganisms that live in the human gut, among those are immune factors, and so you develop immunity there. And so it's really important for people to realize that this is something that you can do. It's dependent on what you eat every day. It doesn't give you a guarantee that you're not going to get sick, but it means that your body is operating more toward its maximum potential to resist sickness.
Okay.
And so I think that that's something that gets left out in all the talk about washing hands and keeping social distancing. That's all good. That's all good stuff. But you've got to also maximize your own capacity to resist disease, and it's an incredibly important thing. And it's almost criminal that they're not spending more time talking about that with people. Along with that too is the fact that some of the foods that we eat, that people commonly consume, actually exacerbate inflammation. And so the whole infection part is an inflammation that is associated with it, particularly in the lungs. And so you don't want to be eating foods that create or contribute to inflammation in the body. And there's a lot of very common ones that fall into that category. I mean,
could you give us an example?
Yeah, let Marlene.
Well, as Bill said, over 100 trillion microorganisms in our little gut here, Ross, right? And these are the little guys that we're feeding. So if I've just given you some lunch, I haven't just fed Ross. I've fed the 100 trillion little hosts that live inside you. And they do everything they can to stay alive, because if you die, they die, and they don't want to die because they can't get out and go somewhere else. It's not like a bacteria or virus on the skin. So how do we feed these organisms? We feed them with what we know as prebiotics, and the prebiotics are the fiber that we have from what we term as our human ecology diet, micro-vegan, if you will, grains and beans and pulses and fruits and nuts and seeds and vegetables. They are loaded with prebiotics, and these prebiotics feed what we call the microorganisms, the probiotics. It's so simple to do this. In fact, Bill and I were talking the other day. We were thinking we'll put a little four series of videos together for people to watch with us anytime they have the inclination. One will be on how we cook and eat grain. The second will be how we cook and eat beans, right? I mean, everything can be bought from the supermarket. The third one will be on vegetables, and the fourth will be in simple desserts. But, it's for us an absolute no-brainer, and it's frustrating that people are not being told, first and foremost, you take responsibility for yourself.
Of course.
Your gut is your gut. Bill's gut is his gut. My gut is my gut. And we put out as much as we can for free to try and inspire people. And if your followers go to the website, Ross, there's actually a free ebook called What to Eat.
Okay.
They can download it, and it's got everything in there that they need to learn about what we're just discussing here. But the immune system, you have to give it priority every single day, and it lives in here.
And those
So I'll post your website up after this
Yeah.
this little interview. So some of the inflammatory foods that people may just unconsciously be going and buying from the supermarket, what would some of them be? Because the people might not be aware of these highly inflammatory foods that they're buying.
Well, we aren't aware. We're not educated to be aware of them because they're some of the most popular foods that we eat.
Anything from an animal. Anything from an animal.
So I mean, meat and dairy are just incredibly promoting inflammation in the body. People who eat a vegan-oriented diet hardly ever have any problems with inflammatory disease. You know, I mean, this is just so many studies have been done on this, and then and there's some vegetables like the nightshade vegetables that people are very fond of, like particularly tomatoes, aubergines. I mean, it's not that these foods are evil. It's just that if you have any kind of inflammation in the body, these will promote it. They will encourage the growth of the development of that inflammation. You know, and so we need to be aware of that. You know, and foods that are high in oxalic acid, like spinach. You know, I mean, these are foods that create an environment, a chemical environment in the body that is more prone to become inflamed. So it's foods like saturated fats of any kind, vegetable or animal. You know, a lot of the fats that are used in baked goods that you see that have vegetable oils in them, like palm oil, for instance. I mean, palm oil is notoriously bad in terms of eating it when you have any kind of inflammation in the body. And so the book that Marlene was talking about, that little booklet that people can get free online, it has sections in there that talk about some of these foods. And, you know, it's terrible because these foods are so much a part of the food culture of the West. And one of the reasons that they're part of that food culture is that they're cheap.
Yeah.
And they're easy to manipulate in the food industry. You know, something like palm oil they say it's a great replacement for butter. So now you can market the product as being a healthy, low cholesterol product, but it's a crap food, you know, and so it finds its way into cookies and muffins and all of the rest of the stuff, you know. So we just have to educate ourselves, you know.
And if we think about even the acid load on foods, people will say to me, yeah, but Marlene, you know, I mean, grains are very acidic, you know. Of course, grains have an acidic component. They have a phytic acid that protects them from predators. But we soak the grain, we cook the grain. But if you look, Ross, at the relative load of grain, it's like +1. If you go up to fish, it's like +10. If you go above that to, you know, all the animal-based foods, it's way off the chart in terms of inflammatory
acidity.
Exactly, you know, and then, you know, we're using all the vegetables that reduce. It's about balance, you know, it's about just, I tell you, Bill and I would love to go and cook for the whole world. That's how I feel right now, because my heart goes out to people that don't know how. They're not exposed to this knowledge. We expect everybody to know this. They don't. Yeah. They don't. And that's what our mission is about. We're always trying to push out the work and let everybody have this in an available form. And you were talking there about the expense. You know, I can create recipes that are like £1 a day. Yes. I done it for Action Against Hunger. People that live below the line, this is not an elitist way of living. So whether I'm training chefs for royal families, which I do, or I'm working with people that have £5 a week to live on, they eat the same food. I give them the same food. I mean, really? It's incredible.
Yeah. I left one food out of that list, and that was sugar.
Yeah.
You read my mind. I was going to, how deadly is refined sugar in fizzy juice?
He's trying to win a popularity contest here. That's why he didn't mention sugar.
It's so interesting. People have a concept that eating a healthy diet, first of all, is going to taste terrible, and secondly, that it's going to be expensive. You know, and both of those things are total mythologies. As Marlene said, eating this way is so cheap because the foods that are most inflammatory, particularly the dairy food and the meat foods, those foods are going to go through the ceiling now. You look in the next few years, the price of meat and dairy is going to go through the roof because that market is challenged a lot. And also because more people are starting to realize that many of these diseases, like the one that we're facing right now, these are what are called zoonosis. And that means that they start in animals and they jump over to human beings. And so most of the viral illnesses in the world start in domesticated animals, and then they hop over the line, you know, and this particular virus that we're looking at now, they're saying, well, it's because of these wild food markets in China. But those animals aren't wild. They're animals that originally were wild, but then they're raised in factory farms.
They raise wild animals in factories. I mean, really?
So it's not it's not like they go out in the woods and capture them, you know, and bring them back to the market. You would never be able to do that with the thousands that they slaughter every year. You know, they're raised in farms. So there's 2,000 of these farms in China that raise these wild animals. You know, and so this is just one example. But then you had the swine flu, and you had the bird flu,
and the mad cow disease, and
all of those
generate
out of that industry. You know, and that's the fact is that when people are using animals right now, and it's really sad because most people don't realize it, those animals are always invariably sick.
Yeah.
They're ill animals. And in some cases, the illness it would kill them sooner, or just as soon as them being slaughtered.
If they didn't have all the antibiotics.
That's where all the antibiotics in the world go.
Let's talk about the antibiotics that are getting pumped into our meat that people are buying in the supermarket.
85% of all the antibiotics that are used in the world go into animals, and the vast majority of them go into farmed animals. They go into dairy animals. They go into meat raised animals. They grow into the fowl, and they have to because they're being raised in unhygienic conditions. So that's why, you know, any of these intensive farming units, whether it's a feedlot or whether it's a factory farm, whatever, these are petri dishes for the development of disease. You know, once a disease gets in there, boom, it affects every animal. And so they have to keep upping the dosage of antibiotics into those animals. And that's one of the reasons why almost all animals that are used for food are killed before they even reach adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, like
usually 4 years old for a cow.
Yeah, for 4 years for a cow. And a cow could live how many
25,
years?
30 years.
So they're killing the teenagers, you know, the same with chickens. The chickens are barely in their youth. And the reason for that is the economy of that is that if they do that, they're not going to have as serious a disease because the animal's immune system is stronger and more robust when they're young. No,
okay.
You don't want them to develop later. And so it's really kind of a horrible thing when you think about it. You know, we're living on diseased animals. You know, even if you don't care about whether an animal is killed or not, which is a whole issue and an important one to us. But even if you didn't think that, would you really kill a diseased animal? I mean, primitive people out in the wild, if an animal is diseased, they don't hunt it.
Of course not.
They say, oh shit, that animal's sick. You know, it's diseased. I'm going to eat that. You know, I want an animal that's healthy and robust. Right?
And I mean, even when you look at the chickens, Ross, right, in the States, they send the chickens to Thailand to have them bleached and washed in chlorine, and then they come back and they come to the UK. I mean, there was an article recently about a chicken in Marks and Spencer's, and the feces was completely covered on top of it. So obviously when the chicken was being, you know, slaughtered, I mean, I don't know how do Bill and I help people to connect the dots, because that's what we do every day. We don't do it in a way that's horrific. Anybody with a brain knows what happens in a slaughterhouse, so we don't put graphic images in people's minds. They have to look and research themselves. But what Bill and I do is, with gusto, is, you know, when people come for health counselling, whether they've got breast cancer or heart disease, or they've got to look at what they've put in the body to make the blood, because in my mantra, food makes the blood, blood makes the cells, cells makes the tissue, tissue makes the organs, and here we be every day. So whatever you've just eaten and fed your microorganisms with today, that's what's making your cells for tomorrow. right? Are the cells going to be clean from that blood, or are they going to have saturated fat and toxicity and trauma? And remember, when you're eating an animal, you're eating the flesh of a former living being that's loaded with bacteria. So to get to the next point I wanted to say is, apart from anything else, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? I mean, I'm 63 this year, Bill's 78.
You am not.
We are like, we go cycling, we don't know what it is to have a cold, a sneeze, nothing. Because
Repeat that. You are.
63 soon, Bill's 78. 2 years, my boy will be 80. Oh.
Goodness, Marlene, I remember Bill becoming 70. Was that 8 years ago?
Yes, that was 8 years ago. There you go.
My goodness.
I know.
Well done.
I know. And you know,
Still here.
to your listeners there, I hope Flora's on, because Flora and I met many a year ago. If you're there, Flora, hi from Marlene. The vitality, the energy, the passion, we jump out of bed every morning. Well, I do.
Jump out of bed. I don't jump out of bed. I roll out of bed.
Because when you're so excited about life, I feel as if I was given the secret to the world when I was a wee girl, when I wouldn't eat animals. And I don't mean that to sound pretentious, right? Because I had dairy food, as I was getting older. But I really do. Because it's almost like you just get somebody in front of you, and you are me, Ross, and Bill is you, and we're all the same. We're just this collection of cells. And what we put in there every day, one piece of tissue, I have to stand up to do this, from here to here, one piece of tissue, that's all we have. Mm-hmm. So why not keep it clean? It should be happy, healthy, dead, right? My wee mum, 94, she's out walking every day. She listens to everything I tell her. She's got energy like someone in her 60s,
Yeah.
So happy, healthy, dead. We don't want to be in old folks' nursing homes, do we?
Not for
Why
me.
would you need to be?
No, well, you both, but I got my mum for Mother's Day about probably,
I think it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
10 years past. You were house sitting for a friend in Kelvin
That's
Side.
right. Yeah.
So it was about 10. Do you know what? It was actually 11
years
11,
ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
And my mum took the challenge because she can cook, and she still does the apples baked in the oven.
Yeah.
And she went full macro. And I've obviously known my mother all my life, and the diets and the fads that she's went on. And my sisters and I said exactly the same thing. It was the healthiest, happiest, and least stressed we've ever seen her. And the only thing my mum had the capacity to change through the trauma that she's endured in her life was her diet, and it fixed everything.
Yeah, because the brain and the gut, as you probably teach this yourself, it's the second brain, what we feed in here. And the mental health in the world is huge, right? And how do we fix mental health? We change these microorganisms in here.
It's got to start in the gut.
Yeah, of course
and
it
I know
is.
we've been talking specifically focused on food, and that's because that's a big piece of what we do. But you mentioned stress in the beginning too, and the one thing that's fascinating, it's not only your immune system, but it is cognitive issues that are benefited when you change your diet. Because if you're not eating enough plant-based food, if you're not having grains and beans and vegetables on a daily basis, you're not getting the phytonutrients that are necessary for the nervous system to really fire accurately. And so, a lot of people say, well, I'm really under stress. But one of the things that we know is all the time from our clients is they start changing their diet because they have a health issue. And then when they come back and talk to us, they say, it's really great that this is clearing up a lot, but I really notice I feel like I'm more relaxed, It's because your brain is working better, It's not going to raise your IQ 10 points, but it's going to make you perceive things in a different way, a more relaxed way. People relax. Their system gets stronger. They slow down. They don't become as anxious. They don't get all those hormonal surges that most people suffer from.
And that's what makes them overwhelmed, right? Because the hormonal imbalance, what we do is, you could call it a hormonal balance diet if you like, because it does balance all the hormones. But the thing is, Ross, people think that what they eat stops here. No. It affects the brain. And, you know, I write all the time to, well, the world, Bill will tell you, I write to the Pope, the Royal Family, all of them. I just write to every single person. Anybody that's got a pulse, I write to them and say, you've got to waken up and help people to understand that all the cognitive problems, the dementia, the Alzheimer's, the Parkinson's, it starts from the gut. It starts with Lewy bodies, proteins that are accumulated here that travel to the brain. They start to kill off the brain cells. The atherosclerosis on the heart is the same as what's on the brain, right? So, you know, happy, healthy, dead. Just remember that, Ross Hislop.
And even the issues, you know, people say, well, there's environmental toxicity, et cetera, that contribute to that. But it only contributes if your body has a lot of fat tissue in it.
Yep.
That's when those heavy metals, that's when all of the crap that we get in the water that comes out of the tap and in the air. If you got fat tissue in your lungs, if you have fat tissue in your circulatory system, what's going to happen is that all of those metals and all of those toxins are going to start collecting in that fat, you know, or they're going to be stored in the liver. And so we become like a magnet for all of that crap that's in the environment. And, you know, that increases that load, you know. So when people, you know, there was a really big experiment that was done in London, I think maybe 30 years ago, where they tested kids that were raised around a big roundabout in northern London, where a lot of trucks came in and around there. And so it was when they had a lot of lead content in the gas. Yeah. And the scores, the school scores from those kids would rock bottom. And what they did was they just simply changed their diet. And by changing their diet, what happened is that their scores started going up, and the kids became more active in school, and they become clearer in thought and action. You know, and it's just, but those kind of things to get everybody goes, wow, that's incredible, and then let's have a burger, right? Yeah. You know, so there's a cognitive dissonance there.
I remember being at a macrobiotic retreat over in Ireland about 23 years ago, and they were talking about that and with fat, and it was something to do with smoking tobacco. I remember listening to it, and correct me here, and the tobacco, the damaging effects of smoking tobacco is increased tenfold.
Yeah.
If you're carrying, am I right in what I'm saying here?
Because all the mucus accumulates in the bronchi. Yep. So the tobacco inhaling, the nicotine sticks. That's why in Japan, although they're a very, very heavy smoking nation, they have very low lung cancer. You know, I'm not saying it's great being an advocate of smoking, but that's what happens, you know, the more accumulation of fat.
And also areas of the Orient, you know, it was always one of the big mysteries, you know, why did people smoking in the West have higher degree of lung cancer than people who are in the East that were smoking equivalent amounts of tobacco every day? Yeah. And it was because they were stick thin. You know, they didn't have a lot of cholesterol in their body. They didn't have a lot of mucus in their lungs. And so it wasn't affecting them as badly. It's still affecting them, but not as badly as here, you know. And so that's just an example of that, you know.
Ross, you know, another thing that we find is very helpful to people, it's on our website. There's a free ebook called Freedom from Cravings, because people try hard and they think, oh, I can't, the cheese is calling my name, or the sugar, or the glass of wine, or whatever. And when you understand the concept of dopamine, these little neurotransmitters that thwart all your efforts, you know, when you understand that, so that book's good to download, Freedom from Cravings, and hopefully your listeners will find it helpful.
Okay, and I'm conscious of your time, but if someone could make one change in their diet to help their immune system, what would that change be?
Eat a full 100% plant-based diet, get all the animal food gone.
Yeah, and it's the simplest thing to do. Here's the thing, Ross. I mean, we see people all the time. You know, it's our work to see people, and we tell people, don't just dilly around with it. You know, do 21 days.
Yeah.
21 days without any animal food, and you know, and eat lots of vegetables and grains. You don't even need to pay attention to which ones initially. Yeah. Right? Just make sure that you're getting a good balance. You know, if you're eating grains and vegetables and beans, just eat those foods. And after 21 days, you decide what you want to do, because you will notice a difference.
Right? And also, we often say it's more important what you take out sometimes than what you put in, right? So what you're taking out is hugely important. I'm not going to say, you know, Ross, you must have this specialist grain and you must have this particular size of bean. No, it's what you take out that brings the healing and the change.
Which is the sugar, the bread, the carbohydrate, the starch.
Yeah, the refined carbohydrate. Because
And all of
remember,
the animal fats.
we live on carbohydrate. It's who we are. We live on plants which are sugared, you know. So we live in sugars from complex carbohydrate.
Yeah.
That's where there's a lot of confusion too.
Yeah.
Did we ever write an article about
We
that?
should.
We should.
You should.
I should. You should. I'm
Great.
busy.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute joy to see you both, and I hope it's not 10 years to come. You'll then be 88.
Oh, I know.
Goodness. So glad to have connected again, and thank you very much for your time. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Give a
Thank you.
love to your mum too.
Will do.
Okay,
She's
lots
probably
of love.
listening. She'll be listening today. She'll be all giddy. Like, oh, there's my name.
Thanks,
Have a great
Ross.
day, guys. Thank you very much. All the
Take care.
best.
Bye now.